Oh, Erev Tov, Shavua Tov. Good evening to everyone. We're here with the weekly Dvar Malchus Shir, and Baruch Hashem, we're still, as we see on the screen, we're a minyan of people, together with every single Jew and Jewess that are connected tonight on this broadcast, and we are in the Dvar Malchus in Parshas Tetzaveh. One of the most incredible portions of the entire Torah, as the Rebbe himself tells us about the portion of Tetzaveh. The name of Moshe Rabbeinu is not mentioned. From the time that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in the book of Shmos, at the beginning of the Parsha of Shmos, until the very end of the Torah, the end of the book of Dvarim, of the Deuteronomy, Le'einei Kol Yisrael Vayemer Chazak, in front of the eyes of the entire Jewish nation, and we say Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek. There's not one portion in the entire Torah that we find that Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned, with the exception of this Parsha, Parshas Tetzaveh. And we see that the Rebbe says that the power and the strength of Moshe Rabbeinu in this Parsha is greater than any other Parsha in the entire Torah. Why? Because this represents an existence of Moshe Rabbeinu which is beyond any name, and Moshe Rabbeinu had many names. Moshe was only one of his many names. But here we see that this is an existence, a power, a root, a source of Moshe Rabbeinu, as he exists beyond names in the source of his soul in heaven, as it is revealed here in the mundane world. We're in the Dvar Malchus Parsha Tetzaveh. In the hard copy, we're on page 362, and in the PDF file, whoever's looking into the PDF file, we're on page 8. The right-hand column, Ois Vov. Just before we begin, we just want to explain why the person that's giving over the class has a crown on his head. I try to do what my wife asks of me. She said, in honor of Purim Katan, in our shir tonight, we have the preparations for Purim Katan, which is this coming Friday, the minor Purim, which has great ramifications, even greater to a certain extent than the real Purim. One of the ramifications is, and it's customary to go and to have joy and to have happiness on Purim Katan, also to eat and to drink. And one of the major things that we're commanded to do is to give tzedakah, matanas le'evyonim. These concepts, we don't read the Megillah, not by night and not by day, and not the following day in Shushan Purim in Yerushalayim, the Arim Mukofas Chema. But those customs that we can do, and there's even those that go out of their way to give shalach manos, to give presents of food to our fellow Jew on Purim Katan. Why? Because when Purim comes, the real Purim next month, everyone is so busy. We're busy reading the Megillah. We're busy preparing to go and to have our feast. Everyone is so busy with all the preparations and all the other responsibilities that we have to fulfill that we don't seem to have the ability to go and to fulfill all those things in the appropriate manner, and specifically the giving of tzedakah, the giving of matanas le'evyonim, the giving of charity to the poor, as we're commanded in the Megillah. Comes Purim Katan, and people they're not all occupied with saying the L'chaim and getting Ad Yoda and so on. Here we can go and we can magnify the function and the focus on these mitzvahs that otherwise perhaps we wouldn't be able to fulfill to their utmost. This is the greatness, one of the greatnesses of Purim Katan. Another thing the Rebbe says is that Purim Katan isn't even a holiday. Seemingly, it's not a holiday. We don't read the Megillah. We don't celebrate Purim in Purim cotton. This elevates the most lowest of the mundanities of the material world because it's not a holiday, but here we're celebrating nevertheless. This uplifts and brings higher the mundane world that we live in, the material world that we live in, and this is the opportunity that Hashem gives us from above to do so. And so also, measure for measure, Hashem comes and lifts us up from the deep pits that we find ourselves in here and now, Rahman Litzlan. We have a situation here in Eretz Yisrael. We have a situation all over the world. And we need Hashem's salvation on a good and revealed basis with the revelation of the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMoshiach, Teichef Umiyad Mamash, and measure for measure, Hashem comes down and reveals himself in the lowest of the low in order to go and to lift up his nation, his chosen nation, Am Yisrael, Teichef Umiyad Mamash, immediately now. Oisvov. V'yesh leheisif ulevar ha'shaychus deleidas Moshe l'shiva ba'adar dafka. The Rebbe comes and continues to say that we have to go and to explain the connection of the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu to the 7th of the month of Adar specifically. We said that the entire concept of Adar, the fact that Adar has a great fortune, and it has a great strength, and it's a month, it's a healthy month, is because it is due to the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in this month. But it doesn't explain what exactly is the connection between the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, specifically in the month of Adar. Moshe Rabbeinu could have been born a different month, and that month would have been the healthy month, the strong month, and perhaps the story of Purim would have occurred on that other month, whatever it might have been, and so on. Comes the Rebbe and explains the following. Shiva ba'adar meire ala shleimus dechodesh Adar. The 7th of Adar comes and expresses the completion of the month of Adar. Shiva yomim ritzufim, 7 consistent days, shekoilim kol shiva simei hashavua, which include within it all the 7 days of the week. Because when we go through 7 days of any month of the year, we're forced to include in those 7 days all the 7 days of the week. Shivas Yemei Bereshis, which represent the 7 days of the creation of Bereshis, Yemei Habinyan, the days of the building, Klolos HaOlam, of the world in general, Kefi shehem b'chodesh Adar, as they are in the month of Adar. Shebezem rumas shamayla v'ashleimus dechodesh Adar, for that in this is hinted to, and the virtue of the completion of the month of Adar. Adir ba'morem Hashem, as we quoted and mentioned earlier, the verse from Psalms, from Tehillim, Adir ba'morem Hashem, Hashem in the heavens is great. Nimsheches v'chayderes u'mizgale b'gidrei ha'olam. This, that Hashem is great, is glorified in the heavens, is drawn down here into the mundane world, and is revealed within the restrictions, the limitations of the mundane world. And this is hinted to in the name of the month of Adar. What's the month of Adar? What is that? Aleph Dar. Aleph, the letter Aleph. Dar, he dwells. Sheremes, this hints to Al Hamshochas v'Gilui Ha'Aleph, the drawing down and the revelation of the Aleph, which represents Alufei Shel Olam, the Aluf, the Almighty of the world, the Creator Hashem, Ba'elam, in the world, in order for Hashem to have a dwelling place here in this nether world. And this is even more stressed on the 7th of Adar, that hints to the actual the actual dwelling place or place the apartment of living la'alufei shel olam, for the great one of the great creator of the world, the b'shivas yimei binyan. That's the Aleph, by the way, of Adar, in the 7 days of creation. The Inyan, because we said that the 7 days, the 7th day of Adar, the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, this represents the 7 days of creation, all the 7 days of the week. The Inyan ze mudgash, and this concept is even more stressed. Gam beleidas Moshe Rabbeinu, also in the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, b'shiva ba'adar, on the 7th of Adar, k'maimer of the Zal, as a saying of our rabbis of blessed memory, that at the time that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the entire home of Moshe Rabbeinu was filled with light. I know, in other words, that the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu activated or light, which represents the revelation of godliness, bechol habayis, in the entire home, which is Gidrei Ha'olam, which is within the restrictions of the mundane creation. Not only Moshe Rabbeinu's home was filled with light, the entire creation, the spiritual and the mundane, everything was filled with light when Moshe Rabbeinu was born. And is even more stressed in the service and the actions of Moshe Rabbeinu throughout his life, that are included in his birth on the 7th of Adar. That through his action of erecting the tabernacle, there was brought about the completion and the main part of the drawing down and revelation of Hashemliness in the world. As we see in the homiletic writings, that when the first of the month of Nisan arrived, and the Holy One, blessed be He, commanded to erect the tabernacle. He sent the message through Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem sent the message through Moshe Rabbeinu. Ma'atem yireim, what are you afraid of? Shahayu Yisrael Eimrim. What do you mean? What do we mean by this? That Hashem says in a manner of exclamation, what are you afraid of? Because the background is that the Jewish nation were saying, Are asinu hamishkan. We have already built the tabernacle. In other words, the vessels, everything, the vessels and the walls, the covering of the Mishkan, everything was built. Mosai tova yashchina. When will the divine presence? When is the divine presence going to come? And dwell within the endeavors of our of the actions of our hands. This is what they were afraid of. They worked and worked and worked. Everything is ready, and actually, there were 7 days as it was before the erection. The erection of the tabernacle, that everything was was placed in place, and that everything was studied and learned, and all the preparations of the Kohanim, Aaron and his sons were made, and the Shekhinah isn't coming. The divine presence isn't coming. Kvar bosi legaini achisi kala. Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem to tell us, the Jewish nation, ladies and gentlemen, Kvar bosi legani, I have already come to my garden, achisi kala, my sister, my bride. Omar Rabbi Yishmael ben Rabbi Yossi, and about this, Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yossi, says, Legan en ksivkan, ele legani, to the garden, it does not state here, but to my garden, with a yud at the end. Lignuni, to my intimate place of dwelling. Lemokim shu ikari bat mitchila, to the place that my presence was, that my main presence and existence was revealed from the beginning of the creation of the world. V'chi ikar shchina eina batachtenim haisa bitmia. V'chi ikar shchina eina batachtenim haisa. And should you say that the main part of the divine presence of Hashem was not in the netherworld, was not here in this mundane world, in the mundane creation? But since Adam, first man, transgressed, the Shechina, the divine presence, per se, removed itself or went into a state of hiddenness, to a state where it is found revealed only in the first firmament, in the Rakia Arishain, V'chulu, etc. Chotum Mitzrim Nistalka Rakia Shvi. The Egyptians went and they transgressed. Then the Shechina left from was removed, or so to speak, as we said before, was placed into hidden. Hashem placed His divine presence into hiddenness and concealment of the Rakia Hashvi, of the seventh firmament. Uchenegdon, and parallel to this, Omdu Shiva Tzadikim, stood up seven righteous individuals of the generations, Veheridu es Hashchina, and they drew down the divine presence, min ha'elyonim latachtenim, from the above realms to the below realms. In other words, again, bringing the Shechina as it was per se here in this netherworld in a state of hiddenness and concealment, already in a level of 7 times removed from the world. These great righteous tzaddikim brought about the return and the restoration and the revelation of the Shechina, of the divine presence here in this world. Who were these people? These tzaddikim. Avram Marida min Hashvi Lashishi. Avram Avinu drew down the divine presence from the seventh firmament to the 6th firmament, v'chulu, etc. Moshe, what about Moshe Rabbeinu? Shehu Ashvi, who is the 7th, when we're counting the tzaddikim that brought about this result of revelation of the divine presence here in this mundane world. V'chol Ashvin, Chavivin, and all those that are 7th are favored. Harida min ha'elyonim latachtenim. He, Moshe Rabbeinu, brought down the divine presence. It brought about the revelation of the divine presence from the heavenly realms to this mundane realm here with us. Omad Moshe v'rida la'aretz. Stood Moshe Rabbeinu and drew down, revealed the divine presence here in this material mundane world. And to add, says the Rebbe, that the beginning of the erecting of the tabernacle, b'shivas yemei miluim, in the 7 days of preparation, that Moshe Rabbeinu erected the tabernacle and he took it apart 7 days, 7 times, one day after the other. Could we imagine what type of suffering the Jewish nation was going through, to the state that they were in a state of fear? They were in a state of fear. Does Hashem not want to dwell amongst us? He commanded us to go and to build the tabernacle and the vessels of the tabernacle 7 days on end. Moshe Rabbeinu is erecting the tabernacle, taking apart the tabernacle. What is going on? This is what the Jewish nation is all afraid about. Comes the Torah and tells us that on the seventh day, the 7 days that came before the actual Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the beginning of the month of Nisan, the time that the tabernacle a lot of trials and tribulations, as we said before. The last day, which was the day of the revelation of Hashem in this world, was Rosh Chodesh. So the 7 days of preparation, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So the 7 days of preparation were when? In the 7 days, the last 7 days of the month of Adar. Michav Gimel Ba'Adar, from the Rebbe says, from the 23rd of Adar, Ad l'siyumai, until the culmination of the month of Adar, Shel Chodesh Adar, of the month of Adar, then in the times of the actual fulfillment of the and the erection and the dwelling of the divine presence amongst the Jewish nation in the desert, in the Mishkan. V'yesh leimar, and we must say, and the Rebbe comes and closes here this episode, Shabbos Chodesh Adar, that at the beginning of the month of Adar, Mudgash Yeser HaTekef, is more stress, the power and the Tekef and the strength. Adir, as we said, the word Adar comes from the word Adir, which is the greatness of Hashem, the Ha'aleph, of the letter Aleph, Reish V'Aschos Tevas Adar, the head and the beginning of the word Adar, Shalemaylam Me'ha'olam, that is that which is above and beyond the limitations of the mundane world. Adir B'Morem Hashem, like we quoted before from Tilim, David Melech says that great is Hashem in the heavens. And in the continuation of the month, and specifically on the 7th of Adar, in which Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and how much more so, closer to the culmination of the month of Adar, the last week of Adar, that Moshe Rabbeinu commenced with the erecting of the tabernacle. Mudgeshes Yeser is even more stressed. Hakavona va'atachlis, the intention and the goal, deham goes ba'elam, of the drawing down and the revelation in the world. Aleph Dar, Aleph Hashem, who is Alufa Shel Elam, the master of the universe. Dar comes and dwells within the universe, within the mundane world. Hemshech v'siyum tevas Adar, the continuation and the culmination and the end of the word Adar, al yedei mishkan, and this was done through the tabernacle, through the Mishkan, the mobile Beis Hamikdash that Hashem commanded us to build in the desert, in the desert, and we had for 40 years. Aval gam b'siyum shel chodesh Adar. But furthermore, the Rebbe says that even at the culmination of the month of Adar, in which commenced the erection of the tabernacle, Moshe Rabbeinu erected the Mishkan, and he served in the Mishkan. They gave sacrifices every one of those 7 days. And he dismantled the Mishkan, the tabernacle, every single one of those 7 days of preparation. During the 7 days of preparation. But the divine presence did not dwell in it. I know, in other words, that the drawing down and the revelation of the divine presence did not take place yet here in this material world below. How did it take place? And it did take place, mind you. But how did it take place? It was still in that establishment of Adir Bamorim Hashem. Great is Hashem in the heavenly realms, above. This is the way it took place every one of those 7 days. Because the service to Hashem and the sacrifices took place every one of the 7 days. We cannot say that it was for nothing. It wasn't. It was not in vain. So there was that establishment of the connecting with the divine presence, but it wasn't with the divine presence as revealed here in this mundane world yet. Only as it was as Adar Adir Bamoreim Hashem, that Hashem is glorified and great in the heavenly realms. That was for the 7 days of preparation. And this is due to the fact that the drawing down and the revelation of the divine presence was still above the borders and the confinements of the mundane world. The Ikram goes Lamato Al Mishkan, and the main drawing down and revelation into the world down here below through the erecting of the tabernacle on a permanent basis. And the dwelling of the divine presence in it was on the first day of the month of Nisan, the Hebrew month of Nisan. Yom Hashmini Lamiluim, which was the 8th day of the days of preparation. Why do we say the 8th day of the days of preparation? Because no one knew then that it was going to happen on the last day. So as far as they were concerned, the Jewish nation, this is the 8th day of preparation. Oh no. This is when the actual action took place. On the first day of the month of Nisan. And the continuation that took place by which was in the Chanukas Mishkan, in the inauguration of the Mishkan of the Tabernacle, Al Yedei Yud Beis Nasiei Yisrael, through the 12 leaders of the tribes of Israel, B'meshech Yud Beis Hayomim, during the 12 days that followed Mirash Chodesh Nisan Ad Yud Beis Pei, from the first of the month of Nisan until the 12th of the month of Nisan. Nosi echod layom. One leader of each tribe every single day. That in this is stressed even more, and the drawing down and the revelation of God, of Hashemliness in the restrictions of the world. Yud Beis Tzerufe Shem Havaye, the 12. One second. The 12 Tzerufim of the name of Hashem, of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, the 12 ways that we can write the name of Hashem, the 12 different ways that we can write the name of Hashem as we know it in the Kabbalah. One second. And this comes from the word mehave, that Hashem is recreating every second of the day. That through this is it brought about the existence of the restriction or the creation of time, as we know it. Yud Beis Chodshei Hashana, which is expressed in the 12 months of the year, which didn't exist before the creation because there was no time. So there were no months, there was no 12 months. Everything was above the restrictions of time. Only after Hashem brought about the restrictions of time, we have the concept of 12 months. These havus hamokim, at least as we know it in the mundane world, and the existence of place. Yud Beis Gvulei Alachsein, the 12 borders of the Alachsein of the diagonals. That's at least not the context, but at least the literal translation. It's a Kabbalistic concept of the mundane world as it exists. There are certain measurements, spiritual measurements. One of these measurements are 12 Gvulei Alachsein, the 12 restrictions of the diagonals. In other words, that also in the restrictions of the world, Olam, as we said before, 12, Yud Beis, as it's expressed by the 12 leaders of each of the tribes. Nimsheches umizgale, there is drawn down and revealed darkas ha'elokus, the level of Hashemliness, shelemayla me'ha'olam, which is above, that is coming and is that is in its source above the world, above the creation. It is drawn down and revealed in the mundane creation. For this is the concept, this is the idea and the concept of the Hebrew month of Nisan. What do we mean by this? Miloshon Nes, because the month of Nisan comes from the word Nes, miracle. The Ad Nisei Nisim, to the extent that it is not only expressing the month of Nisan miracles, but Nisei Nisim, but miraculous miracles. Because as the Talmud says, it states in the tractate of Brachos, tractate Brachos, that a person that sees a name or anything that corresponds with two nuns in its name, a person will see. If a person dreams even about that which is that which has two nuns in its name, this is a sign that we will see Nisei Nisim, miraculous miracles. And even more, this is something that we will allow ourselves to add. It's not written in the Malchus itself here at this point. It's written in other places. But as we will merit and we will see, not only miraculous miracles as it was in the times of the Exodus from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, but as the Navi, as the prophet says, Ki meit seischa mi'eretz Mitzrayim, as in the days that we were going out of Egypt, the original first Golus, the first exile, our enu niflois, Hashem says to the prophet and the Navi, Tell the Jewish people, I will show them wonders, niflois. And we are in the score of years that are represented by the pei, tafshin pei, from the beginning of the year 2020. The pei represents the word pele, wonders. And these are the wonders that we are going to see immediately now, Teichef Umiyad, with the revelation of the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMashiach on a good and revealed basis, mitoch simcha v'tu levav, in a manner of joy and happiness. And it should be Teichef Umiyad, mamish, mamish, mamish. And the main thing is that it should be immediately now, literally now. Yechi Adoneinu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu HaMelech HaMoshiach Chai V'Kayom Le'olam Voed. Amen.